At first, I'll give a summary of an extract from one of the Harry Potter books. It's an extract from the 5th book, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And then I'll say something about Harry Potter and how he's a typical character, and in the end, a little about the typical fantasy structure and how this extract fits in this typical fantasy structure. But first, a summary. So, this extract takes place in Dumbledore's office, and it's the time where he tells Harry the truth about why Voldemort tried to kill him when he was a child. And Dumbledore has had plenty of chances to tell him, but he has always postponed it because he thought he was too young, or that he has always been through enough. But now is the time to tell him, because he needs to make sure that his plan works out. And he explains to Harry how there was made a prophecy shortly before his birth, and this prophecy is the reason why Voldemort tried to kill Harry when he was a child. But the fact is that Voldemort didn't hear the whole prophecy, and that's the reason why it went wrong. Dumbledore, he heard it, so he shows it to Harry by putting it in the pensieve, kind of pulling out his thoughts and putting him in this pensieve, and so Harry can see them. And the prophecy says that a boy with the power to fight the Dark Lord will be born, and he will have some powers that Voldemort isn't aware of, but that neither of them can live while the other one survives. Yes, and by hearing this, Harry is really shocked, and to find out that he's the chosen one to fight the Dark Lord, that is pretty shocking. And yes, that was the summary. So, a little about Harry as a typical fantasy character. In fantasy, there's often a hero, and here it's Harry. He has to solve a mission or a quest, and it's to fight the Dark Lord. And it's in this quest that it becomes clear to Harry. You can see it in this quotation, for example: Voldemort himself would mark him as his equal, and so he did, Harry. He chose you, not Neville. He gave you the scar that has proved both blessing and curse. And then a little further it says, and notice this, Harry, he chose not the pure blood, but the half-blood. So he is the chosen one, whether he wants it or not, because he has the abilities. And that's typical for a hero in a fantasy story. But the thing is that he isn't an obvious choice to a hero because he is half-blood and because of his background where he lived with Muggles, for example. And that's also typical for a fantasy hero, that he isn't the obvious choice. It's often the fool who becomes the hero. And Harry develops in the books. And in this quotation, young you might be, but you had proved you were exceptional. So Harry has some qualities and abilities that he isn't aware of. And that's very typical for a fantasy hero. So he has these abilities even though he don't know it himself, he says. But he might have chosen wrong, said Harry. He might have marked the wrong person, so he don't believe he can handle the quest, but he has the abilities to, because he has developed throughout the other books. Yes, and this extract is the point of no return. It's when Dumbledore tells Harry the truth, and when he knows the truth, there is no way back. He has to make a decision. He has to find out if he want to fight Voldemort or not. And we can see in this quotation, "It's time," he said, "for me to tell you what I should have told you 5 years ago, Harry. Please sit down. I'm going to tell you everything. I ask only a little patience." So the truth comes out here, and after this there's no way of taking it back. So it's the point of no return. It's the moment of